The content of this presentation is proprietary and confidential information of the Florida Firefighter Safety and Health Collaborative. It is not intended to be distributed by any party without the written consent of the collaborative. Attendees should note that the educational component of this session is being recorded and will be published on the Florida Firefighter Safety and Health Collaborative website and YouTube page. To maintain complete confidentiality, an announcement will be made before recordings begin, and only presenter will be identified during the recording. Therefore, to ensure anonymity, all attendees are asked to mute their microphones until an announcement is made that the recording is complete. Presentations are intended for educational purposes only and do not replace independent professional judgment. The ideas expressed in this presentation are the professional opinion of the presenter and do not necessarily represent those of the Florida Firefighter Safety and Health Collaborative or its constituents. Before acting on any of the information presented, attendees should consider the appropriateness of the information as it pertains to their individual situation and seek independent professional advice should any concerns arise. If you or anyone you know are in what is believed or perceived to be a situation that is or may become harmful, please reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline via phone at 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-7233, or through their website, thehotline.org, or dial 911 in the event of an emergency. With that, we're grateful to welcome you all here tonight for a brand new year together. Happy 2021. Hopefully it's a little less challenging than 2020, but we are all in this together and we are grateful to see you here. With that, we are very excited to have Michelle kick off the year. Let's let her introduce herself, and we're looking forward to what you're presenting tonight.
All right, so my name is Michelle Rehbein. I work with UCF RESTORES, which classically attends to first responders and military, those that are struggling with anxiety disorders up on through PTSD. So that is my connection to the collaborative. And I have participated in the collaborative's clinician awareness program twice. Can't get enough of it. It's great. And I just fully enjoy everything that the collaborative does for their community. And so I'm very grateful to have been invited to be able to participate this evening, and especially on such a grand occasion of being an anniversary. My history is kind of sorted as far as how I've gotten to this point. I started out as a teacher, primarily working with at-risk students. And in that, I was very involved with the family and with the individuals and understanding, what goes on in, behaviors within the family, and especially with things that are connected to codependency and enabling, substance abuse, and other bad coping skills that tend to deteriorate the family, which led me to leave education and go down the mental health counseling route, where I spend many years dealing with those struggling with substance abuse and helping them sort out their relationships, which were highly enthralled in these types of behaviors that we're going to talk about tonight. And so I'm very glad to speak more to this, because my hope by the end of tonight that people feel like there's another way, that there is hope in changing some of the possible obstacles that they're experiencing or have seen others experience, and guide them on their way out. So with that being said, one of the things that I'd like to acknowledge is that primarily the information that I'm referencing tonight comes from NIMH, the National Institute of Mental Health website, and CODA, which is Codependency Anonymous. And it actually is a group just like AA and NA, and they are highly effective in dealing with people that live with others that have kind of addictive or maladaptive coping behaviors. I've gotten permission to use some of the information that I'm including tonight, such as pictures, videos, etc. And on top of that, one of the other disclaimers I want to mention before we start is that I'm going to be touching on some sensitive information, and I want it to be understood that some of my points that I'm including are talking points, and it's not me saying that I want you to change what you believe or change how you live your life when it's the best part of your life. I am using talking points that can be, if not understood completely, can move people in the wrong direction without them truly understanding, that their beliefs without further conversation can actually be detrimental. And so again, I truly believe in the sanctity of marriage. I truly believe in commitment, but we need to talk about some really sticky topics tonight. And I'm going to start with this picture. And this picture is, I think, a representation of a lot of what firefighters can relate to. I think every one of you who is a firefighter can empathize with this person, the look on the face, what they might be thinking, and so forth. I think that spouses at home might see this but struggle with understanding where it comes from. So that takes me to this slide, and the picture and the information on the next two slides is, I'm going to be referring back to this information all throughout. So I'm going to take some time and read this through with you, because I think it's really important to ingest the information. And this post was written by an individual named Jeremy. And not only is he a firefighter paramedic, but has time in the US Army. And he says, if you're going through hell, keep going. Today I will see tragedy. Today I will see illness. Today I will see death. When my alarm sounds in the morning and my home is quiet, I think this. While my wife and children sleep and the world is still, I know this. My profession calls me into these horrible situations, these unfortunate events, and asks me to help make it right, to help make it better, to help it make sense. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't, but that's life, and it's just how things go. We see it all, and we keep going. We train harder and study more so that when one of our own falls, we can perform at our best. The weight of our responsibility is indescribable, but we do what we do so that others may live. Lives hang in the balance, and it's our skill and ability that may tip the scales one way or the other. Not many people have that kind of pressure weighing on them. I have to be at my best because that is what you deserve. More weight of burden, but it is welcomed and handled with honor and pride. That being said, all this training, pride, experience, honor, tragedy takes its toll on us. We're not indestructible or bulletproof. We are vulnerable and we have emotions, just like everyone else. But we have to tuck that away in a safe place. Sometimes life gets hard to deal with and we lost the ability to cope and become angry or depressed. Things that we have seen or done 1,000 times now cause us great issues. We lose sleep or can't sleep at all. We turn to drinking, drugs, gambling, or any other number of vices that get us out of that place. Many times we don't realize that not only are we being pulled into a downward spiral, but that we are taking our families and friends with us. So these 2 pages, I want to just allow you to sit with this information for just a minute, because this is where the enabling and codependency starts. And this is what it fosters and trails on through. And I want you to remember what is being said, especially in this last paragraph. All these vices that get us out of that place. It doesn't have to just be substance abuse or drinking or gambling. It doesn't have to be pornography. It can be anger. It can be not wanting to participate in the things that the family would like for you to participate in. It can be anything. As long as it's something that takes you out of the family unit and takes you away from that connection that you have with your spouse, it's going to change the way your relationship functions. So the first question is, what do we expect in our relationships? So if you think back to the day you first met the person that you've chosen to do life with, what do you think about? Well, first you're on your best behavior. And you think about how blissful it is. And at one point you say to yourself, this is my soulmate. I'm going to take this relationship one step further. But let's not forget the paragraph that I just came from. Let's not forget what your baggage really is, okay? And you want this person to share life with you. So we enter into this wonderful connection of matrimony, and we promise to love, honor, obey in sickness and health, for richer, for poorer, through the good times and the bad. And we all believe these things. And it is the foundation of a good marriage. But what I'm asking you to think about, to set aside, and to consider is, what does that really mean? What does that mean when the person that you find yourself with can no longer cope because of the things that they're experiencing, because of the things that they do on a daily basis that changes them, and the type of coping that they choose to get us out of that place? How does it attack love, honor, obedience? What kind of sickness does it lead the relationship into? What kind of rich or poor does it rise and give change to? And through the good times and the bad. And when we say that phrase, do you really think about how long the good times last and how long the bad times can last? And do you lose sight of if the bad times will end? So what happens? What happens when things change? What happens when the rules of the game are no longer the same? And what happens when you no longer know what to do with what you have in front of you? So think to yourself, what has changed or what no longer adds up? And what is it that you want to do with it? How are you responding? Who do you think about when the rules have changed? Do you have friends that you have to put on a face for? Do you have coworkers that ask about things that you don't want to respond to? And what do you say? You as a spouse and you as a partner to a person that has taken on some very bad coping skills and maladaptive behaviors, they're not doing this on purpose. And the way you manage this as a codependent or an enabler doesn't come from a bad place. Actually, because you're nurturers and because you are probably just as much of a fixer as your spouse, codependency and enabling come from a very good place. But if not dealt with on a different level, it can be very destructive. So when you say to yourself, I've got your back, when you say to each other that I'll be there for you through thick or thin, understand that sometimes you need to take a step back, considering that sometimes fixing it, sometimes covering up for that person is actually making it worse. And so anytime that there's a change and it's perceived as an attack on either end is going to start that separation. And if you go back to that beginning, that bliss, that understanding that marriage is, the happily ever after feeling, or all of a sudden the good behaviors that you showed and you used to bring that person closer to you, you can no longer support. And you got to ask yourself, are you taking responsibility for the other person, or are you being supportive? So here on this page are a whole bunch of things that attack the expectations. And the bigger question is, what are you doing with them? What are you doing to make sure you stay on the right level? So again, you say to yourself, I love you, so I will do anything for you, which sets the spouse up for some pretty big tasks. Because let's go back again to that first picture and that first piece that I read to you. They're coping the best way they can. And they're choosing behaviors that don't necessarily add up to loving, honoring, and good commitment for the relationship. So enabling the behaviors of others allows that other person to continue without consequences. So you say to yourself, you don't really know what else to do to make these undesirable behaviors stop. You even ask yourself, why is he or she doing this to me? And then you say to yourself, I can't let others see how much he drinks or she drinks when off shift. I can't share that. I can't share how angry this person gets and how scary it can be sometimes. And you start lying to yourself about, you know what, it's just a bad month. It's just a bad time of the year. Or, when we take some time off and maybe go on vacation, things will get better. Because again, you know that underneath it all, this person is a very resilient individual. And you do extra at home, and you do all the things to try and make life easier for that person who's struggling. But what you're not doing is allowing certain consequences, those natural consequences, to take effect. And so we kind of find ourselves deeper into this problem. And being a codependent starts out with the understanding or the idea that if I don't do this for you, something bad's going to happen. If I don't cover up the things you're doing that no one else can see, then something bad's going to happen if I call you out. So we've got some areas of fear, acting out of fear and acting out of the need to control. Because what's one thing that we don't like, none of us like, and that's change. And that's what's exactly going on because of these bad behaviors that you might notice or witness. And don't get me wrong, I'm not only talking about the severity of some of these behaviors. Some of these behaviors can be very subtle. And so you have to ask yourself, are these personal crises or these unbearable, chronic, emotional, painful situations, are they making you feel hopeless or helpless? And of all the effort that you're putting forth to try and fix this situation, are they working? And if they're not, and no matter how hard you are trying to fix this, and you find yourself coming to a crossroad, are you going to continue? Are you going to continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? If you find yourself in that situation, you might be getting to the point where you are bringing on some maladaptive coping skills yourself, or also known as being a codependent. So now you're not just enabling these behaviors to persist, you're actually moving along with them and trying to normalize the abnormal. And for a time, these things seem to work. So, as a new and unhealthy pattern develops, you're now in a new relationship, and that's this codependent relationship. And on the left here, I've set aside some patterns that start to form. Denial patterns. For example, the inability to express what you truly feel or understand the perceptions or other people's actions that you find yourself in combating or trying to counteract. Is there pain going on? Is there the inability to control certain behaviors due to feelings of too much anxiety? Depression is now escalating and becoming a little bit, creating that isolation, not wanting to be involved with the family or the ongoings of what is happening. For example, the things that your kids do, getting together with extended family, because, and I hear this often, I just don't want them to ask me about my job. Don't want them to ask me. So that person starts to not attend family functions. And the spouse, what do? They still go to make good appearances. And what do they say? Well, he's just tired. His last shift didn't sleep very much. So therefore, we're not taking a look at what's going on underneath. There could be some low self-esteem. Maybe the person is feeling like their purpose in life isn't what they thought it was. And so they find themselves having difficulty making decisions about, what is right for the family or what is right for themselves, or even how to go about problem solving. And so we turn to other things that help us escape. And therefore the needs to really they really need to take a look at go unmet. They might even find themselves seeking validation, really trying to find a way for some where someplace else, and this is where maybe some infidelity might take place, because they want that validation that they're still a good person. Then we also see a lot of compliance, patterns, where maybe the spouse or the relationship, the codependent relationship, starts to be ultra loyal to one another. They don't, now both of them, both spouses aren't interacting. Some of the values, the family values, the values that they used to live by, they're no longer doing. They've started to create a different way of functioning in the family. And because the discord seems to be more and more, they find themselves becoming agreeable to one another when the behaviors originally weren't so acceptable. So for example, going out and drinking I got to go out and be with my girlfriends or my buddies tonight. I just need a night out. I need an escape. And they come home and obviously have drank too much, maybe some risk-taking behaviors. And then, of course, then the spouse says, well, I need that too. And so now you have both sides doing the same kind of behaviors that at one point were never tolerable. Control patterns. You might find a codependent starting to really control how the household functions, and making sure that if the partner did go out all night, drank too much, or did have an angry outburst that was really not okay, making excuses and making sure that other affected individuals are compensated because they just don't want to deal with the issue at hand. Because we're not talking about simple stuff here anymore. We're talking about deep-seated issues. We're talking about hurt and hopelessness that anything is going to change. So again, we try and find that new normal. And then, of course, the ultimate one is avoidance, not seeing the problem for what it is at all. That person finds themselves not able to address the issues, so they avoid conflict at all costs. They will take on the rejection because they feel that they must. They might be harsh towards others when somebody says or asks questions that don't feel so good. And so here we have, again, one person shouldering responsibility for this huge shift and allowing the other person to continue to contribute to that. And so we're sinking deeper. So now it's time to turn the corner. It's time to take a look and step back and say, what am I supposed to do about this? Because it can't go on any further. I love this person. I know this person loves me, but there's nothing about our behaviors that are showing that we love one another. So listen to yourself. Listen to what it is you're compromising, or what you are denying, or what you are avoiding. And ask yourself, is this something that I want to continue? If something's going on and your first quick reaction is to fix it, make it better, make it so that other people don't notice, ask yourself if you really need to address this situation, respond to this situation right away. Maybe you need to take a step back. Don't bargain with your time, your energy, or your intentions. Go back to what you truly believe in. Go back to love, honor, the right kind of obedience, the right kind of levels of in sickness and in health, for richer and for poorer. And ask yourself, how far away from that baseline have you guys gotten? And then don't justify or explain yourself when you feel the urge to do so. Have the courage to say to yourself and to others, things aren't going so well, but we're going to figure it out. Say to yourself, I am drawing the line right here, and my boundaries are this. If you need to release your stress because of all these things that you are going through and you're trying to deal with, I give you that. But you're not going to stay away from this family. You are not going to do the things that cause more damage. And again, I'm not just talking about drinking or substance use. I'm talking about anger. I'm talking about isolation. I'm talking about how you interact on an intimate level with your partner, whether it is additional requests or a lack thereof. Those are attacks on your relationship, on that intimate connection that you have formed with the person that you love. And so say no without feeling guilty. Say no, or maybe say not now. What are you trying to control and why? Why is it that you feel like you have to cover this up? Why is it that you feel you can't talk to someone? Why is it that you feel you can't ask for help? Because in my mind, all problems have solutions. In my mind, everything has a better outcome. Don't apologize for another person's behaviors. Help them, support them, be there for them, but don't apologize for them if they're behaving poorly. Anger is not your problem, it's theirs. As hard as it is to understand, you do not cause a person to be angry. You might represent something that that person can't tolerate, and their choice is to be angry. But maybe it's more because they're hurt, they're disappointed, they're feeling betrayed, or any other deep-seated feeling that they just don't have words for or the ability to connect with. And that's a major part of how to get better, is really understanding what your feelings and emotions are. What is the correct word for it? So, communication is key. But the communication has to be clear, concise, and honest. You have to be able to be honest despite going towards somebody who might react with anger. You have to be able to say, I can't tolerate this any longer. I don't know how to help you, but I certainly want to. I need for things to be different. But what I'm not saying is, I need for you to be different. I'm saying I need for things to be different. And I'm asking you to help me make that change. I'm asking you to meet me on a common level, and let's take a look at what needs to change. And that is the start of the conversation that invites that person to say, let's do this together. I know you're suffering, but we are a family, and we need to understand that sometimes we're fearful. Sometimes we are ashamed or feel guilty. Sometimes there is deep sadness or even feelings of rejection that drive our behaviors. So you will always honor yourself and the other person you're with by admitting what exactly you are afraid of. And I think that sometimes if we sit back and take a look at the person we chose to do life with, if we can be honest and admit what we're really thinking or what we're afraid of, I think that at the end of the day, that person is going to step up and say, I am here with you, and I do have your back. but I'm not going to go with the way we've been doing things any longer. There's an answer. We just have to find it. So what I want you to step back and consider is that your relationship is not your parents' relationship. Your relationship is not your neighbor's relationship or your best friend's relationship. Your relationship is your own. And it's not always that happy mom, you know, with the dinner on the table at 5 o'clock and dad comes home with a smile on his face saying, "Hey kids, what did you do today?" That's not it. And it certainly isn't, "I love you, you're perfect, now change," which is sometimes how we feel that we've become. But the right kind of communication that you need to start telling yourself and telling others starts with this. Fear and the need to control is a greater repressor of the human spirit and the hidden culprit behind many of our damaging beliefs about ourselves and others. Fear masquerades as truth and holds us in a false belief that we are unworthy and others' reactions will destroy us. So when these words often blow our feelings and opinions and allow us to hedge our bets and thereby control other people's reactions, in some cases, we also allow our own avoidance and facing our own wants and desires to never know what our true feelings are. It's incredible to think, and it's possible to spend one whole life by saying, "I'm not sure, I don't know what to do," or "I've got mixed feelings." And sometimes we really may not know what the answer to the questions in life are or that are associated with our relationship, and that's okay. However, we have to be very careful and that we are being honest with ourselves. We need to take a close look at the feelings and attitudes that we harbor and demonstrate within our families. We need to understand that we will all experience fear. We will all experience a healthy dose of shame and guilt. And we will also experience doubt in our lives. But with the understanding that there is hope and with the understanding that there is always an answer, my message to you is that we can drive this forward and become healthier people. And as deep and as profound or as burdensome as some of these thoughts can be, I really want to end on a positive note, because I think that the message that mental health is something that we need to cherish, take care of, and be purposeful with is so very, very important. And Jason, who you met last month, if you were on this call, put out a video, and with his permission, I would like to share that with you at this time. So, Michelle?
Hey, now that I have your attention, let's talk about a little something called mental health. I know, I can already hear what you're saying. Not a mental health video. I get it. The subject of mental health isn't exactly the most exciting thing, because if you're hearing about it, you're normally either stuck in a room with someone that can make knitting look exciting.
As you can see, serotonin and dopamine affect happiness in the body.
Or you've had so many death-related statistics shoved down your throat that you're convinced you're going to die at any second.
If you poop, you die. If you retire, you die. If you die, you die.
But let's face it, your mental health's pretty important. If you're having a lull in your brain happiness, asking for help shouldn't feel like you're being judged by the world in some kind of neurophysiological strength contest. Our brain is arguably the most complex organ in the body. It's constantly changing and adapting to the things that we're seeing, hearing, smelling, and even drinking.
Doctor said I can have 2 glasses a day. Stupid doctor.
And thinking you're only going to have happy moments in your life is like thinking leg day isn't important.
What's
someone needs help with a mental health problem, it's no different than going to the doctor for any other medical issue. So why are we treating it that way? I mean, could you imagine if you went to the hospital for a broken leg and the doctor said, as you can see, your leg is broken because it is weak. Isn't my leg broken because someone hit me with a car? Yes, but a stronger leg would have taken it. That'd be pretty ridiculous, right? Suffering from PTSD or any other mental health problem is not a sign of weakness. It's a symptom of a larger problem that needs to be addressed.
But how do we fix it?
Don't. We work on it. Look, dealing with any mental health issue is complex and it's never the same for each person. But the three biggest things that we can start doing is start listening.
What's going on, bro? You're acting a little different since that last call. Honestly, the call was pretty messed up.
Start validating.
Oh, dude, you're right. It was pretty messed up, man. Is there anything I can do to help you?
And stop judging.
Bro, did you hear about Jake? What a look.
No. It's up to us to start helping each other work on this issue. If we do it together, we can finally make this a normal part of the life that we love so much. Then we can start going to less funerals and more retirement parties. Do you really want to hurt? Because at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself one very important question. Is your fear of being judged really worth not talking about what's going on in your head? Because no matter how tough we are, there's always at least one reason why we should all ask for help when we need it. So be safe, my friends. And just remember, we're always only one phone call away.
With that, we are going to share this with everything that Michelle was talking about this evening, and with the compliment of Jason's video. We know the value of not only having therapeutic interventions, but the value of peer support. And so this year we are committing the third Thursday of every month to having a confidential peer support group for first responders and their families. The registration for it is open now. We'll follow up with an email as well with the link that you see on here. And it's just an hour on the third Thursday of every month for everybody to get together, to listen, to be heard, to feel not judged, but most importantly, to really have the depth and understanding of where the other people are. That was the greatest gift that was given to me as a veteran spouse, finding a group of other veteran family and caregivers who actually knew what I was living and going through. And we're grateful now to provide that to first responder families. So I am going to stop sharing the screen. I'm going to say, Michelle, thank you. There were about 5 or 6 key moments in there that I almost threw up on myself because everything that you talked about, I lived that life for 15 years. And it was hard to live it, and it's even harder to reflect back and hear other people talk about, what I knew was going wrong and was hiding. So thank you so much for the information that you presented and for the opportunity to almost vomit this evening. With that, I would like to open the table or the floor to you, all of you out there that have questions, that want to share. We are still recording. So for those of you who would like to, like Lindsay Judah so pleasantly raising her hand, we'll allow you to do it while we record for the benefit of other people. And then we will stop the recording and have a confidential conversation for those of you who would like to stay. The very last thing that I'm going to say is that when this webinar is over, you'll either have a survey that pops up or like a link or something magical is going to happen where a survey is coming to you, and we would be very grateful if you would fill that out. So with that, I'm going to actually end the recording for the evening. Thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to visit us on our YouTube page to re-listen to all of the amazing information that was presented tonight.